The lights inside the New Hampshire Town Hall flickered to life as the final checks on the microphones were completed. The place was packed, local news crews, national political outlets, and a diverse audience ranging from middle-aged conservatives in flannel to college-aged activists draped in keffiyehs and quoting Chomsky under their breath. The air crackled with anticipation. At center stage stood two podiums, draped in navy and crimson. On the left, Caroline Leavitt, the rising conservative firebrand, just 27 years old but already a lightning rod for national debates on religion, patriotism, and generational values. Her supporters called her fearless. Her critics called her a provocateur. And on the right, Dr. Rashid Al-Fahim, a sharp-witted Islamic scholar and activist originally from Michigan, known for his biting social critiques and impassioned defense of Islamic values in the American public sphere. Tonight, the two would square off in a televised debate titled, Faith in America, Christian Roots, Islamic Rights, and the Soul of the Nation. As Caroline stepped onto the stage to applause, she wore a tailored navy pantsuit, her blonde hair tied back, her face calm but alert. Across from her, Rashid adjusted his round glasses, tugging slightly at his collar. He wore a gray thobe with a modern jacket over it, the mix of tradition and urban style reflecting exactly the point he came to make. Islam has a place here, too. The moderator, a grizzled local journalist named Tom Reardon, cleared his throat and began. Tonight, we explore the role of religion in American identity. Ms. Leavitt, Dr. Al-Fahim, welcome. Caroline smiled slightly. Thank you, Tom. I'm honored to be here and eager to speak plainly about the values that shaped our country, Christian values. Dr. Al-Fahim nodded, hands folded calmly. And I'm glad to join this conversation, to push back against the idea that there's only one mold for morality in this nation. Round 1. Tom looked to Caroline. Let's begin with a foundational question. Is America a Christian nation? Caroline leaned into the mic, her tone crisp but composed. The United States was built on Judeo-Christian principles, on the belief in individual liberty, accountability to God, and the sacred worth of every human life. Our founding fathers may have supported religious freedom, but they built that freedom on a Christian framework. And that matters. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Caroline pressed on. That's not a call for theocracy. That's an acknowledgement of historical truth. You remove the foundation, the house collapses. Rashid's brow furrowed, but he was smiling, thinly. With respect, he said, his voice low and articulate, that's a selectively nostalgic reading. Yes, Christianity influenced the founders, but so did Enlightenment philosophy, deism, even mistrust of organized religion itself. Jefferson famously edited out the miracles from the Bible. Madison warned against entangling church and state. Caroline interjected, yet they still prayed. Congress still opened in prayer. They referenced divine providence. Yes, Rashid said, but they did not enshrine Christianity in the Constitution. They deliberately didn't. That was the genius of it. He turned to the crowd now, eyes sweeping across. What does it say about a nation that Muslims like myself can worship freely, that synagogues, temples, churches, and mosques all exist without government interference? That's not Christian dominance. That's pluralism. The applause from his side of the room was real. Caroline didn't flinch. But the very freedom you celebrate didn't come from nothing. It was born of a Christian worldview that believed rights came from God, not government. You're standing on ground cultivated by Christianity, and now demanding it be erased. Rashid raised an eyebrow. No one's demanding erasure. I'm demanding space. The room tensed. The moderator glanced between them. Let's move to modern implications, he said. Ms. Leavitt, do you believe Islam is compatible with American values? The question echoed like a dare. Caroline exhaled sharply through her nose. Islam, like any faith, has many forms. But political Islam, Sharia law, blasphemy laws, subjugation of women, is fundamentally opposed to American liberty. I've seen how it plays out in other nations. I will not pretend it fits neatly into our democratic framework. Gasps. Cheers. Boos. Dr. Al-Fahim stepped forward slightly, his voice hardening. That is a gross generalization. You're conflating culture with religion, theocratic abuse with genuine belief. There are millions of American Muslims who cherish this country and its freedoms. Caroline, and I welcome them. But don't ask me to pretend that faiths are all the same, or that defending Christianity is somehow bigotry. I don't believe in neutrality when it comes to truth. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the town hall felt more like a courtroom or a battlefield. Tom cleared his throat again. And with that, we'll take a short break. When we return, the next round, Faith and Law in the United States. As the cameras cut to commercial, staffers swarmed the candidates, whispering, adjusting lapels. But neither Caroline nor Rashid moved. They kept their eyes on each other. Neither blinked. The lights dimmed slightly as the cameras resumed. Tom Reardon straightened his notes, the crowd slowly quieting. You could feel the tension shift. What had started as a polite ideological skirmish was evolving into something more personal, more electric. Welcome back, Tom said. We now turn to our second theme, the intersection of faith and law. Should religious values influence American legislation? Caroline answered first, her voice firm. Absolutely. That doesn't mean a theocracy, but moral law shapes civil law. Our bans on murder, theft, perjury, these aren't secular inventions. They are grounded in God's commandments. If we pretend morality can be separated from law, we end up with chaos. A society must stand on shared values. Dr. Al-Fahim responded coolly, shared values, yes, but not imposed ones. There's a difference between guiding ethics and enforced dogma. You talk about murder and theft, those are universal wrongs, not uniquely Christian. I don't need to read Exodus to know killing is wrong. Islam teaches the same. So do other religions. So does human reason. Caroline's gaze was unwavering. But when society loses that moral anchor, call it God, call it conscience, who decides what's right? What stops one group from redefining morality entirely? In a purely secular system, even freedom can be manipulated. Al-Fahim leaned forward now. And that's exactly why we don't allow one religion to dominate the law. That's what my ancestors fled when they left regimes where clerics dictated every detail of daily life. That's why we must guard against any faith, Christianity included, being elevated above others. There were claps. Then a heckle, "This is our country." Tom raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "Let's keep it civil." Caroline stood taller. I make no apologies for saying America is exceptional because of its Christian heritage. That heritage gave us religious liberty. It's not oppression to say that's worth defending. Rashid fired back, his voice sharper now. But when you say Christian heritage, while pushing laws that disproportionately target Muslims, like so-called anti-Sharia legislation or surveillance in mosques, what message does that send? That we're welcome, but watched. Caroline blinked, but didn't flinch. National security isn't bigotry. We've had attacks in this country inspired by radical Islam. Are we supposed to ignore that because it's politically incorrect? A murmur of tension passed through the room. Rashid stepped away from the podium slightly, his voice lowering. Do you know what it's like, Ms. Leavitt, to have your child come home crying because someone told them their religion makes them a terrorist? Because of rhetoric like yours. Caroline's expression softened for a brief second, then steeled. And do you know what it's like to lose a loved one in an attack where the killer shouted, Allahu Akbar? Pain exists on both sides, Dr. Al-Fahim. But security isn't hate. It's reality. The audience was hushed now. No one cheered. The air was heavy, like a storm had passed, but wasn't finished. Tom cleared his throat again. Let's pivot. Dr. Al-Fahim, you've written that Islam offers a comprehensive moral system. Could you explain what role you think it should play in American public life? Rashid's voice steadied. Islam is a complete way of life, yes, but that doesn't mean it demands domination. American Muslims aren't trying to impose Sharia law. We're trying to live our faith authentically, while respecting the Constitution. Wearing hijab, fasting during Ramadan, praying in public, these are acts of devotion, not political statements. Caroline countered quickly. But what about when Islamic values clash with American ones, like gender equality or LGBT rights? Do we excuse intolerance in the name of pluralism? Rashid paused, just long enough for it to matter. Every community grapples with modernity. But don't pretend Christianity has a spotless record on women's rights or gay rights. Progress comes through dialogue, not demonization. Caroline nodded once. Then let's have that dialogue. But don't silence people of faith who believe in biblical morality. Tolerance goes both ways. That drew applause, even from some of Rashid's side. Tom looked at his notes again, choosing his next question carefully. Final question for this round. What does a truly inclusive America look like to you? Caroline answered without hesitation. An America that welcomes everyone, but asks everyone to respect its foundation. Christianity built the house. You're welcome inside, but don't tear out the floorboards. Rashid inhaled deeply. An inclusive America doesn't require conformity. It allows a Christian to pray, a Muslim to fast, an atheist to question, a Jew to argue, and no one to fear they'll be second class. We don't have to agree. We just have to coexist with dignity. Silence. Then, thunderous applause, from both sides. The moderator called for another break. The cameras faded out. But the debate was far from over. Backstage, Caroline sipped water, her expression unreadable. Rashid sat on a couch, flipping through his notes but not reading them. They'd each landed blows. But the final round, on the future of faith in politics, would decide everything. The town hall was no longer just a political event. It had transformed into something heavier, almost theatrical. There was a murmur in the crowd now, a shift in posture, a sharpening of eyes. Everyone could feel it. The next round would either end in a stalemate or shift the tide decisively. Caroline Leavitt returned to her podium, chin high, spine straight. Across from her, Dr. Rashid Al-Fahim appeared collected, but behind his calm eyes, there was a flicker of something else, fatigue, maybe, or fire waiting to ignite. Moderator Tom Reardon leaned into the mic. This final round is about faith and the future. In a country as diverse and divided as ours, what role should religion play in shaping the next generation? Rashid answered first, his voice low but resolute. Religion must be a compass, not a cudgel. We live in a pluralistic society. That means my faith can guide me, but it cannot be used to coerce you. My children will grow up proud of being Muslim and proud of being American. That dual identity is not a contradiction. It's the future. Caroline didn't hesitate. But identity built on contradiction is inherently unstable. America must stand for something concrete, not a patchwork of competing ideologies. If our children grow up believing there's no shared truth, just an endless buffet of beliefs, then we've lost the soul of the country. A hand shot up in the audience. Then another. And another. Tom hesitated, then broke protocol. Let's hear from the audience, he said, surprising even himself. Ma'am, you first. A woman stood. Modest hijab. Soft but certain voice. Ms. Leavitt, do you believe people like me can be fully American? Caroline's eyes didn't waver. Yes, if you believe in American values. And that includes freedom of speech, equal rights, the Constitution. If your faith complements that, you're as American as anyone. And if it conflicts? The woman asked. Caroline paused. Then the Constitution must win. Rashid interjected, the Constitution doesn't require abandoning faith. It demands we don't use it to dominate others. That goes for all religions. Including yours, Caroline. That landed hard. There was a murmur of approval. Caroline's lips tightened. Tom turned to the next hand. A young man in a faded Marine Corps hoodie. Dr. Al-Fahim, you say religion shouldn't dominate. But aren't there imams right now, right here, telling young Muslims that America is corrupt? That the West is evil? I fought overseas. I've seen what radicalism does. A beat of silence. Rashid stepped forward. I don't deny that some voices misuse Islam. Just like some misuse Christianity to justify white supremacy or violence at abortion clinics. But I'm not them. Don't define all of us by the worst among us. Caroline seized the moment. But that's the problem. We're told to avoid generalizations, unless it's about Christians. Then suddenly we're all backward bigots, clinging to guns and Bibles. I refuse to be lectured by people who only believe in tolerance when it suits them. That drew cheers. The crowd was now fully engaged, swaying visibly between points. Tom leaned in. One final question. For both of you. If elected officials must draw on faith to guide policy, where is the line? Caroline answered first, this time slower, more precise. Faith must inform conscience. And conscience informs leadership. You can't separate the two. But laws must serve everyone. That's where wisdom, not just doctrine, must lead. Rashid followed, his voice quieter now, but piercing. The line is dignity. The moment your faith tramples the dignity of someone else, you've gone too far. My Islam teaches me to respect the neighbor, the stranger, the unbeliever. Not convert them. Just respect them. That's the line. The room was hushed again. Then Tom gave a small nod. We'll now move to closing statements. Ms. Leavitt. Caroline inhaled deeply, her final act ready. This country is on the edge of forgetting who it is. We're told that faith must be kept behind closed doors, that truth is relative, and that standing for anything too firmly makes you intolerant. I reject that. America was built on courage, not compromise. I believe in freedom, but I believe that freedom was born of faith. You cannot separate the two. Applause. She stepped back. Rashid approached the mic. I grew up reciting the Pledge of Allegiance in school. One nation, under God, indivisible. Not under one God, not under your God, under God. A divine ideal. I don't want to change America. I want it to live up to its promise. That no matter your faith, you have a place here, not just a space in the crowd. A place in the story. The applause this time was more mixed, but undeniably passionate. Tom closed the debate. Thank you both. The candidates shook hands. Briefly. Firmly. But when they let go, something had shifted. Not between them, but in the room.